Ladies and gentlemen, would you please welcome Jo Brand.
Hello. Thank you very much. Yes, I know I'm a lot thinner and prettier than I seem on telly. Calm down. And Trinny and Susannah told me never to wear black ever again. So bollocks to those posh old twats, eh? Let's move this right out of the way, actually, because if I get in front of it, you won't be able to see me properly, will you? My personal trainer said if I walk up and down a lot, I'll burn up 15 calories, so hang on. There we go, that'll do for one night. I also should just point out to you, I have got a psychological problem, which is sort of the opposite of anorexia, which is that I actually don't think I look fat, which is quite unsettling, really, because I go out thinking I look quite nice. And people go, oh, you're fat now. And me? And then I look at myself on telly and think, God, yes, I am. I really must do something about that. And I always used to think I was anorexic, you see, because anorexic people look in the mirror and think they look fat, and so do I. So, you know. I kind of thought that I must be. So there we go. And don't look so worried down there, I'm not going to fall off. We've got a little group of lads down here, which is a bit scary. You obviously got free tickets, because lads do not come to see me willingly. So welcome, I hope you have a good night, all right? And don't worry, I can't run either, so... if I start winking at you and looking slightly middle-aged and hormonal, just leg it, all right? Anyway, what do you think of Trinny and Susannah? Do you like them? No. Oh, yes! That was Trinny in that man's voice. I know those tunes anywhere. Now, they have done me some favours, and hopefully the favours that they've done me are visible tonight. Yes, thank you for that ironic whistle. I could get a tea tray on them, I know. They made me go to a posh place and get a bra fitted, right? And it's a place called Rigby and Pella, next door. Was that funny? You laughed at that. Well done. Do you work there? No. I hope not. They've actually got a woman there that can just look at your tits from 10 yards and tell you what size you are. It's brilliant. She looked at me and went, K2. At least it wasn't Everest. But, no, the reason it's posh, this Rigby and Pella place, is that the Queen goes there. That's quite posh, isn't it? And I did ask on your behalf, because I thought you'd be interested. Pink nipples or brown ones? But they refused to tell me. So that's a bit disappointing. So I just had to go straight ahead and get my own one done. Called in an architect, you know, got the scaffolding up, and here I am, hoiked up at least 4 inches. Fucking brilliant. Because I was blinding 14-year-old boys, I'm now blinding much taller men. And when I wear my maternity bra, I blind cats with short legs. So... it's all relative, really. Now, bras are a kind of odd thing. I burnt my bra in the 70s, and it heated a small village in Cumberland for about 2 weeks, so that was very handy. And I used to wear a whalebone corset until Greenpeace came around and firebombed my knicker drawer, so... And I have to say, I was a little bit disappointed with the look Trinny and Susannah achieved for me. Brown. Not quite sure what that signified. Yes, I thought that as well. And also, I knew I looked a bit shit because I phoned my mum up and went, "How did I look, Mum?" And she went, "You looked absolutely lovely, dear." I didn't. I looked like Anne Widdecombe's less attractive sister. And I know that I did. I also apologise for Comic Relief and for doing the Cheeky Girls with Ruby Wax, because I know I looked like a barrel with hot pants on. And Ruby said to me, "Should we do the Cheeky Girls?" I went, "Fuck it, we're nearly menopausal, let's do the Leaky Girls, shall we?" And the fact is, I am nearly menopausal, really, you see. And I do have to apologise to you. When you're getting nearly menopausal, the hormones start to take over a bit. So if I behave a little bit strangely, just tell me. I don't care, you know. Just tell me to go off and have a quick slurp of HRT, and I'll be back and I'll be absolutely fine after that. Jolly good. Right. Now, the other reason I am a little bit sort of strange behaviour-wise is that I've spent the last 2 years having children. Now, I know you're looking at me again going, "No, you haven't, you lesbian." And if you have, it was obviously a turkey baster. Or did you get a gay friend of yours who get completely pissed and grit his teeth and take you from behind? It happens, you know. Let's not be romantic about this. Unless you've got boyish good looks. That's how they have to do it. And the fact of the matter is, no, I didn't do any of those. Thank God. I actually managed to get myself a husband. Got him fairly pissed, obviously. Paid him a lot of money, but got one. So that was all right. And one thing I'm not going to do tonight is I'm not going to bore you with tales of the sweet things that my children say, because people do tend to do it. How many people here haven't got children? Yes. Oh, fuck, a lot of you. Hey! See? Hey, we haven't got the little bastard fucking nightmare waking you up all night, bloody leeching off you. How many people have got children? Yes. Quite a lot more muted, wasn't it? Yeah, we've got them. How many people here married? Oh, fuck me, even worse. So from that, we might surmise that the single people are the happiest, followed by the ones with kids on their own, and then by the married, yeah, man, fucking awful, innit? Yeah, no. So yes, Trinny and Susanna, oh, Comic Relief, oh God, nightmare, and now motherhood. Now, I don't know, how many people said they've got kids in here? Yeah. The thing I found when I had children, right, bloody bad-tempered the whole time, since it happened. You know, I can't do anything and be nice to people. I just can't manage it. Someone knocks at the door, gives me flowers. Fuck, gotta find a fucking vase. It's terrible, isn't it? I have to just tell you, actually, and I said I wasn't going to bore you with tales of sweetness of things that my children said, which are very annoying. But when I was pregnant, some friends came round and we were telling them that this is when I was expecting my first baby and I was about 4 months pregnant. So we told them, I'm pregnant, and they had their 4-year-old twins with them. And one of them said to me, "If it's a crocodile, can you call it Snappy?" And I said, well, if it's a crocodile, I'm not too worried about what I'm going to call it, quite honestly. And the thing about, like, when you have a child, right, you don't actually have any idea what to do. Because when you don't have children, they are the most boring subject in the world, aren't they? No, they are. When you don't have children, who wants to talk about children? Beaten only by people's dreams, other people's dreams, shall I? Please, could you go through that in more detail? Oh, you were running through an empty town, were you? How absolutely fucking fascinating. It is so true, though, isn't it? So the list goes, people's dreams, children if you haven't got them, number 2, right? And that's why you never bother to learn anything about how to look after them, because it's so dull. And then you have them and you think, fuck, I need to know everything I need to know in the next sort of 10 minutes. And the problem with the books is the books are all loaded with value judgment, so you don't just get one ordinary book that tells you what to do. You get 700 written by, the whole spectrum, hippies that end, Nazis that end, right? So you can choose, put it out in the garden with some rabbits and see what happens. Put it in a cupboard, if it makes a noise, kill it. And you just think, well, which one will I go for? And there don't actually tend to be many in the middle, you know. It's hippie or Nazi, right? So I just had no idea what to do, and I just had to guess, really. All the while being incredibly fucking irritable, right? And the flower thing's terrible, isn't it? Because, you know, you get the flowers and you think, this should make me happy and I should be pleased. But no, I've got to go and find a bloody plant. It's hidden in the back of the cupboard. You get it out. It's got some sort of growth that's been going on for the last 15 years that smells like a badger's died. So that's got to be cleaned out. And the problem with flowers these days is it's sort of almost like a scientific experiment, isn't it? Kind of getting them into the vase. Because you've got a little sort of packet of sugar, which I suspect is the government's way of getting rid of nuclear material, right? The kind of Colditz principle, you know, shaking it out of your trousers. They go, right, what we do is when we close down one of these plants, right, we'll put it all in little packets and send it to flower shops. People will put it... And so what you do, first of all, right, what you need is some scissors to get the packet open. You never have scissors, do you? With me, I don't have them because my 2.5-year-old is burying them in the face of my 11-month-old. In a sibling rivalry sort of a way. So you end up biting it, don't you? You swallow half of it. The rest of it goes in the vase with a bit of cold water. Oh, you've done that wrong. It should be warm water. What do? You pour it all in a pan and heat it up. I think about these problems. That is why I'm so mad after childbirth, because I actually worry about it, you know. And so actually I have to say, what I do when I get some flowers, just so I don't have to worry too much, straight in the fucking bin, right? And I advise you to do that as well. Now, the other thing as well when you have children is that your house smells very unpleasant all the time. You wonder why your friends stop coming round. It's not because you're boring, it's because your house smells of poo, right? And I have to say, I was actually quite pleased once I had children, because I could pass the poo smell off on them, you know. And I hadn't been able to do that for a number of years. And you don't clean your house either. I haven't cleaned my house for 2 years. It's bloody brilliant, right? And if a social worker came round, I would just say, it's because I don't want them to get asthma and eczema, you know, because our houses are too clean. I don't know if you know that. Yes, that is poo on the carpet, your worship. But we're trying to sell our house at the moment, so I did actually clean it the other day, and the estate agent came round, and I could tell, he kind of recognised me, and I could tell what he was thinking. Saw the 2 kids, lesbian, turkey mate, oh yes, Musbrand, you know. And he said, I'm sorry to tell you this, the house is lovely, but it smells of urine. I thought, fuck it, it's a step up. And I said, well, I think you'll find it smells of urine because I've just pissed in your briefcase, actually. But how many people in here said they're married? Oh, not you. It's hard work, isn't it? No, it's just you. Oh, okay. Well, I find it hard work. I was bored after about a week and a half, I tell you. And, you know, we did all that thing in the church. We had that big argument, are we going to have the obey thing in, you know? In this day's kind of contemporary sort of service, you don't have to, you can take obey out. And I said, look, either you obey me or we're not getting married, all right? And so now, you know, I find myself in this position where I promise to support him in sickness and in health. I mean, it's such a pain in the arse when they're ill. It's difficult, isn't it, really? Got a slight cold? Yeah, why don't you make a fucking meal of that for a month? Got a slight cold? Yes, I'm going to bed, you know. In fact, the other night, actually, I spent 7 hours in casualty with my husband whilst he waited there to get 17 stitches removed from his face. That'll teach him to buy me a fucking sewing kit for my birthday. Herringbone it was. But I'm very lucky. I've got 2 lovely little daughters, and people say, do you march them around your sitting room dressed in dungarees with DMs on, shouting, I hate men? Yes, I do. I want them to learn young. Very nice little girls, 2.5-year-old called Maisie and 11-month-old called Snappy, obviously. And I feel kind of rather depressed, actually, by little girls' toys. Because, you know, when they can barely stagger at about 14 months old, you see them down the park, you know, can barely stagger. What do you give them? A buggy with a baby in it. So you've got their mother walking along. How fucking depressed I am. And you've got the baby as I'm fucking depressed too. It just seems so unfair, doesn't it? Give them something good to play with, I don't know. Like a train set or a gun or something. And what I am dreading most about the future for Maisie and Snappy is explaining to them the complexities of human relationships. And talking to them basically about dating, because I'm such a bitter old fucking harridan. I'm worried that I'm not going to get it right, you know. I mean, let's talk about... Sorry. I know. I'm awful, aren't I? I don't care. I do apologise, because you thought I was such a lady, and I'm not. I shall break wind in a minute and let you hear that as well. Because blokes are so straightforward, aren't they? They're fantastically, wonderfully predictable. Whereas we women are apparently a bit mysterious and difficult to interpret. That's the problem. And it's everywhere. It's not just in situations in which sort of difficult things occur. It's in relationships as well. Now, I don't know how many people here live with someone and occasionally feel that their relationship is a bit like an Eastern European art film with the wrong subtitles attached. Anyone? So, for example, you're sitting there on the settee and you say something like, I really fancy a nice cup of tea. And he reads, could you just pop your penis in my mouth? It happens, doesn't it? And you think, what is that all about? Well, what that actually is all about to me, it's to do with the way that we're brought up to view the opposite sex, right? Some men tend to be brought up to view women as sexual objects, whereas women are brought up to view men as useful objects, right? I mean, I know this because the other night, right, I made my husband stand like that for an hour, and I burnt his back rather badly. Because the ironing board was broken. But you see, I think you can tell how we feel about each other. If you take as an example a couple that have been together a long time, it's a bit boring in the old sex department, they're having sex. The man, right, fantasises that he's having sex with somebody else, right? Whereas the woman fantasises she's having sex with anybody else. That's the way it works. Male sexual fantasies tend to feature 2 lesbians and a donkey, don't they? With the Match of the Day theme playing in the background. Female sexual fantasies, a bit less demanding. With me, someone said to me once, what's your favourite sexual fantasy? And I said that you run a Hoover over the place at least once a week. And the other thing is that we women do actually get blamed when nastiness happens. We get blamed for being a part of it, for somehow provoking an attack, right? Contributory negligence. Because we're just too damn sexy. And I can see why. You know, are women provocative? What do you think? I suppose we are quite, aren't we, really? We go out. We walk down the street. Fuck me, that's quite provocative, isn't it? And we own vaginas. And we're just asking for something to be plopped into them, I think. And there's an argument kind of going on, has been for years, among different feminist groups, because you've got lots of different feminist groups. It's not just as straightforward as looking like a plumber, right? People think it is. There are radical lesbian separatist feminists, right? And they hate men and they don't want to have anything to do with them. And they don't fancy them and they don't want to get anywhere near them and they wouldn't care if they all died. And they wear dungarees, possibly, and DMs, and they have quite short hair. Well, that is the stereotype. Now, you get along that continuum, you get different types of groups, and then at the other end, you get liberal feminists, right? And they like to wear a bit of lippy and a pretty dress and go like that, right? Now, the problem with me is I'm one of those, but I look like one of the others. So people get a bit confused, you see. Because I come along and go, hey, lippy, and they're, I'm sorry. And now they've been arguing for years amongst themselves, right? These two sort of separate groups. And a woman from one group, Germaine Greer, who's sort of actually moving the other way lately, I have to say. But she accused a woman from the other group, a journalist called Suzanne Moore, of having bird's nest hair and what she called fuck me shoes, right? Which are shoes you deliberately wear out, I think, to make someone fuck you. I.e., not those. But I thought to myself, what are fuck me shoes? I don't really know what she means, you know. Although occasionally I'll go into a shoe shop, see a really expensive pair and go, fuck me. I'm not absolutely sure that that's what's right. I don't know if that's the case. And the other thing I do, if I'm going out, I try and dress like I've been dragged through a hedge backwards, right? Because when it actually happens later on, then it saves me a lot of time, you know. And the thing is, I suppose, you know, we women kind of have to think about this sort of thing all the time. And people sort of say to women, you know, you mustn't walk along the street thinking that every bloke is a potential rapist. But the problem is, if you're a woman, they actually are, because you don't know them, they don't have a sign on them. So you just have to assume that, and you have to tailor your behaviour accordingly. And one of the problems with that gets in the way is alcohol, obviously. Because when you're pissed out of your head, even an old tramp covered in sick looks quite attractive, don't they? Hi, come over. And you behave absolutely hideously, don't you? I mean, when I was at college, I would do things like I would end up on the bus with no knickers on and one shoe. The following morning thinking, Christ, what did I do last night? You know, carpet burns all over my chin. Where some bloke had tried to drag me out of his flat, obviously, but... And if I'd been attacked by someone, they would just say, oh, you were just asking for that. Look at the state of you. And women these days, you know, they do get like, well, in my day as well, so tanked up on alcohol, they barely know what they're doing, which is a bit scary if there's Mr. Pervy around, isn't it, really? I remember going to the Greek islands with some friends of mine when we were at college, you know, and we did go a bit mental. And my friend Betty, right, she ended up halfway up a mountain with her face in a cactus, being taken from behind by a Greek waiter. And... yes, it wasn't a particularly attractive sight, but it made a very nice frame photo for her parents' wedding anniversary. So... You know, you do just have to be careful when alcohol intervenes, because women make crap decisions when they're drunk. You know, like you come out of a club 3 o'clock in the morning and there's a slightly sort of pervy geezer around, it's like, all right, standing next to a 70s minivan with minicab written on the side in felt tip, you know. Minicab, love? Yeah, oh, yes, please, thank you. And in you get, don't you? For fuck's sake. You go to the doctors, I've got a bit of a cough. Could you just pop up on the couch and take your pants off? Right, you are. You piss out of your head, someone says, could we just walk home through that graveyard where 3 women got killed last week? OK. We really have to be careful, and all women have made the wrong decision at one time or another. I've done it, you know. I ended up down a scary lane once with a bloke I'd accepted a lift from, who I thought looked quite nice, even though he was covered in tattoos that said kill, you know. And just, oh, that's ironic, obviously. We ended up down this dark, scary lane, and I thought, right, that's it, I'm going to be killed. And I haven't even got my favourite skirt on. And the problem is, when you end up in that situation, there I was, it was just me and my handbag. Well, I say my handbag, obviously Exhibit A by this point. And you never have anything useful in your handbag with which to kill your assailant, do you? You never brought the Moulinex mixer with castration attachment with you, did you? No. All you've got's a bit of lippy, so your corpse looks quite attractive. And in this situation, I thought, well, what can I do? I'm going to be killed, might as well be cheerful about it. So I said, right, what are you going to do now then? And lucky for me, he started crying. And a friend of mine said, had he just put his glasses on? Yes, I thought that was rather unkind as well. But you see, what it actually comes down to is communication, really. For women to kind of pick up the signs, even when they're a bit pissed, you know. And for people to be straight with each other. I lived with a guy once, and one night he said to me, I fancy anal sex tonight. And I said, well, here's my dildo, let's see how you get on with it. Obviously not quite so keen at that point, so did have to sort of force him to do it a bit, and but yeah, you know, by kind of sitting on him a bit, and he was screaming, and I think I could hear the words no being screamed quite loud, but it was all right, you see, because I know that he meant yes, so I didn't need to worry. And you know, I don't know if I'm alone amongst women in thinking, how possibly can men kind of gaze every day at page 3 and kind of not get bored? Because are they not sort of pretty much all the same? And men will go, no, there are subtle differences. You're obviously not intelligent to pick them up. You see, the thing is, I think that we should really, as women, be given an equivalent of page 3. And to me, it's just not good enough to have a bloke with his shirt off. That is a cop-out. Do you agree, or is that just me? Because that's like saying, you know, the female equivalent is just a woman with a T-shirt on. Oh, how very sexy that is. Women's breasts are secondary sexual organs, right? So if we're going to get the male equivalent, we want secondary sexual organs. So I would recommend men with their testicles out. Now, the reason that's going to work, right, is because it'd be fucking funny for a start-off. Because they'd have to have their pants on, right, like, and have one out either side, right? Like that, and kind of try and look like it was somehow attractive. Right. Okay. And you see, what we would be able to do, because, you know, I don't know about you, but I've stood in the queue for the cash point and seen a couple of blokes in front with page 3 out, kind of assessing the pros and cons of a pair of breasts, right? Saying things like, quite pert, you know. And I want to stand there with a woman friend of mine, with a man with his testicles out, right? And say things like, quite long, aren't they? rather loudly. Bit too hairy for me. Very nodular. Look, nodular. And the fact of the matter is, there are many more uses for men's testicles which we haven't come up with yet. My favourite, personally, if I can break into a laboratory, is testing anti-wrinkle cream on them. Because if you can smooth out those buggers, you've got a good product on your hands, haven't you, really? Now, as I said, I did give birth a couple of times in the last few years, which I know is unusual for a pensioner like myself, but just let me tell you, this is absolutely true, right? While I was giving birth to the first child, someone popped their head round the door of the labour wards and said, "Would you mind if I had your autograph?" And I said, "I'm so sorry, I don't appear to have a pen on me at the moment, but let me sign your arm with a scalpel." So that was a nice friendly encounter. And the doctor, I have to say, wasn't much better. He said to me, "Don't I recognise you from somewhere?" And I said, "Well, it depends which end you're talking about, really." Because let's face it, as women, we don't get to show off our downstairs furniture terribly often, do we? And we like to think that if we're going to do that, ground force has been in and tidied it up a bit, don't you, really? You don't want to think it's a bit straggly and arid down there, do you? And that people are going to look on you unkindly and think you haven't kept it in very good condition. Because the interesting thing is, you know, women seem to have got bored with having surgery on their faces, and they're now having surgery down here to make it look a little bit better. Is that possible? As far as I'm concerned, all women's vaginas look like Sir Bernard Ingham, and there's an end to it. And there's one poor woman I read about in the paper the other day, and apparently she was upset because one of her labia was 1/2 a centimetre bigger than the other. 1/2 a centimetre. And she spent $3,000 on getting this problem sorted out. Now, fair enough if one of them's dragging on the ground while you're running to the bath. But $3,000 to sort that problem out, I don't think so. Because the thing is, right, as I say, the only other time you get the opportunity to show off your furniture in that way is when you go for a smear, right? And the problem with that, as women will know who use the NHS, is that you don't just see a doctor, you see the 14-year-old medical students as well, who are all a bit like this, right? You're there with your feet up in the stirrups, in they all come, sort of leering a bit and looking quite scary. And they just leave you there for half an hour while they pop off for a coffee, in a room with a very wide door and a very narrow curtain, which happens to look out onto a busy corridor with a lot of builders walking up and down it, if you're lucky. If you're very lucky, a porter pops his head in and goes, "All right, love," and wheels you off down the canteen in that position. And you find yourself just having, "Oh yes, chuck a bun in, everyone else does." And you see, I have been humiliated in that way on several occasions at my local hospital, and I kind of thought to myself, how do you get round this? How do you sort of change your mindset slightly so it's not quite as humiliating as it appears? And the way I found that you can do this, right, is before you go for a smear, try it actually, try it. Get absolutely pissed out of your head. It's fucking brilliant. It's a bit like an 1830 holiday, all squashed into an hour, right? So you're there and they come in. Hello, good morning. Yeah, fucking get in there. You love it. Yeah. I had such fun. I tell you, it was brilliant. Yeah, take me down the canteen. Not allowed back there, obviously. But never mind. And you see, I think as women, you have to let this last gasp of being drunk and being very badly behaved flood over you. Because with me, I'm 46 now, it's not going to last much longer. I'm heading for middle age. I'm heading for the menopause. Hurrah! more sweating. And, because men, you're all right when you get older, right? Because as long as you earn a bit of money and, you know, bit of Grecian 2000, you can trade the old model in for a new one, can't you? We can't. We are downhill to 70 and then we die. No, it's true. Because when you get to 70 as a woman, you become invisible if you haven't already. And the way you become invisible is the law says you've got to go to your local hairdressers, have all your hair cut off, permed and dyed blue, right? And then as you're on the way out, they put a big, hairy, smelly coat on you, even if it's August. They wrap a load of fat round your ankles so you haven't got any anymore. And they make you walk up and down the street talking bollocks, right? I'm 85, you know. Oh, I love my grandson, I really do. And the thing is that women don't want to end up like that. We know that because a couple of years ago, we all voted for the nation's favourite poem. And which one won? The poem called When I Am Old, I Shall Wear Purple by Jenny Joseph. Because it's all about retaining your individuality. Now, I've decided that when I'm old, I'm actually going to be an alcoholic, right? And I'm going to write a poem called When I Am Old, I Shall Be Purple, which I just think is actually much more fun. I do. Because, you know, there aren't really any good old lady role models for women, are there? I can't think of one single one, to be honest with you. I really can't. Queen Mum, who knows? She lived to 101, didn't she? What's that in human years? Well, maybe you think that's controversial, but I mean, you know, she lived to 101. She was a royal. She had royal food. She had private healthcare. She lived in a bloody palace. She should be living to 250 at the very least. I feel cheated that she went at 101, to be honest with you. She had many hip replacements, didn't she, the old Queen Mum? And I don't know if you know this, but in the coming years, the requirement for hip replacements is going to treble, right? And I'll tell you who I think is responsible. Alan Titchmarsh. Fucking decking. I don't know if you've noticed, it pisses down in this country 365 days a year. And if water falls onto wood, somehow wood gets algae, gets slippery. Grandma comes out of the conservatory for a sneaky fag, arse over tit, I rest my case, right? Get rid of the ground force, that's what I say. Are there nice things about being old? I can't really think of... You do become a bit of a laughing stock. For a start off, you have to drive those little noddy cars along the pavement, don't you? And I think that's humiliating enough for anyone, don't you? Stand a stair lift, you look like a right wanker on them, don't you? Why can't you just have a bloody lift built in your house? Now, I apologise if I haven't brought too much romance into your life tonight. You know, my mother often says to me, oh, can't you do a bit of nicer material? Can't you kind of be nice and gentle and kind of and not swear, you know, and talk about something intelligent that me and your father will appreciate? You go, fuck off, you old slag. Yes, not enough romance. I apologise for not being romantic and for not talking possibly about all the lovely things in life you might have wanted to hear about tonight. You know, because let's face it, in our lives there's little enough cheer, is there? And I've made it worse in some ways, I feel. I apologise for that. I've been married now for some time, you know, and it's difficult to keep the old spark going, isn't it? It really is. And you know, the other day my husband said, you know, it's all got a bit sort of dull and a bit grim, hasn't it? And I thought, I'll have to try and make things better. And I said to him, look, darling, what can I do to please you? And he said, get out of the way of the fucking telly. Because it's hard, actually. I tell you, it's hard being romantic if you're overweight, because you don't look romantic, do you? You look like a big blob. And And so I think it's a problem for a lot of big women. You know, they think, how can I disguise my waist and make myself seem a bit more mysterious and a bit sexy and not make them kind of run away quite so quickly? Well, I find the way to do it, if you want to do that, is to turn the lights off. Quite honestly. Well, that's the best way. And or go on a diet, whatever. Turn the lights off is easier, you know, because you can pretend that is your thigh. Because the lights on, lights off dilemma is something that's been with fat women for time immemorial, right? And I find myself, you know, when I'm sitting on the bed and the lights are on, I can't be asked to go and turn them off because it's too bloody far. And I find it a lot easier just to poke my husband in the eyes with a pencil, to be honest with you. He quite likes that. He does. In the end, we have felt tips at the weekend. We vary it, you know. I actually think, to me, what would be the most spectacular thing to have for a long-term relationship that's got a little bit boring, to be quite honest, would be a remote control for my husband. So, you know, I could put him on hold, go and get a sandwich and a beer, you know, and a magazine, something like that. And what I would actually do is I would fast forward through the bits of sex that I didn't like. And I think that would be quite good. That would make a relationship last longer. Because the bit I would fast forward through, to be honest with you, is this bit, right? Because that bit, you know, that can last 2 minutes or 45, can't it, really? Depending on how much they've had to drink. And you've got to be honest, if it goes on much longer than about 5, your mind does start to wander a bit, doesn't it? I'm sorry, but it does. If you've had a drink as well and you're paralysed from the waist down, basically, you just think, what am I getting out of this, really? Am I firming my waist a bit, maybe? I don't know. It feels slightly aerobic, but... And if you're anywhere near the headboard, obviously, it's fucking brain damage, isn't it? You know? It just all seems so pointless, really, doesn't it, sometimes? And you start doing things like ceiling needs painting. You do, don't you? Can't help it. Oh, there's a spider. Wonder if that's going to get across to the other side before he's come. And then, once you've gone past that sort of ceiling watching stage, it's sort of tomorrow's diary, really, isn't it? Have I got enough fish fingers in for the kids' tea? Then maybe the crossword, you know. 10 across, let's go through that again, shall we? And I always reckon if it goes on over half an hour, you've got to set yourself quite an interesting little task to stay awake, really. And what I tend to do is I just try and tend to remember all of the actors in The Magnificent Seven. That's quite a good one. Because you start off with the easy ones, that takes about 10 seconds, then you've got those 3 buggers that are always really hard to remember. That keeps you going up to about 45 minutes. Because you see, the problem with this, actually, going on and on and on like this forever, you just can't read your book properly, can you? Now, can I just say, you have been a delightful audience. I feel I owe you an apology for, A, looking quite sweaty and unattractive, because obviously that's not what you've come to see. I also apologise for sniffing when I've got a blocked nose, and I thought it was fucking brilliant. I'm going to make them keep that in and play it. Play that bit to my parents, right? I'm going to go, right, here's my new video. I just want to fast forward to one bit to show you this, right? Because it's, like, really good. You see, I find it absolutely impossible to be well-behaved and ladylike. It is fucking hard work, isn't it? No, it's not. It's just you. All right. But, You've been an interesting audience. No, you have. It's very hard to suss out audiences sometimes because they do tend to take on for performers like the nature of a person, you know. So like either they'll be kind of a grumpy person or a pissed person or a neurotic person or a depressed person. And the sort of person you've been tonight, if you wouldn't mind me just saying, is you seem to me like you've been the sort of person that kind of, well, you've been in a psychiatric hospital for maybe 6 months. It's taken you a long time to get better, and the doctor's written you up for long-acting phenothiazines to keep your psychosis under control. And you've been coming in to see the community nurse, and to be quite honest, you've been doing quite well. Do you know what I mean? You've cheered up, you've got back on your feet, you've got a job, and that's going quite well, although you are given to occasional bouts of melancholy and of strangling animals. But on the whole, that's the sort of person you've been, which is a lovely person in my book, having been an ex-psychiatric nurse. And you've not been a posh person, I have to say, which is good, because posh audiences obviously want to kill me. They want to take me out and beat me and torture me first and kill me. And I know this because I do posh audiences from time to time. Cheltenham, they're often burning an effigy of me in the town square and actually trying to get their hands on me, but they've never managed it, thankfully. But yes, I was in Cambridge a couple of years ago doing a gig, and I used to take this thing around with me called a wife leader, right, which was like a sticky thing that they used to use in the West Indies 200 or 300 years ago. And it had a loop in it. It was a stick with a loop, and they would put it on a woman's finger and lead her round, because women weren't to be trusted once you've married them, and you had to hang on to them and stop them running off to the shops and buying provisions. So anyway, I used to try and get audiences to guess what this was, and I held this up in Cambridge one night and said, does anyone know what this is? And a woman up the front went, is it a cassava juice extractor? No, I don't even know what a fucking cassava is, let alone anything else. So I was in Warrington the next night, which is near Liverpool, and that, I'm sorry, Warrington is not posh at all, right? And I held this up and said, does anyone know what this is? And a bloke up the back went, fat bird with a stick. So I would like to thank you very much indeed for putting up with me tonight, for letting me sniff, for letting me walk up and down and be sweaty, and for letting me tell you jokes. I hope you've had a good night. Thanks ever so much for listening. You're very sweet. Good night.